Welcome from Japan. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Ah, whom am I kidding? This is good old US of A. But the closest I can get to Japan is this nowadays. This is Japantown, or J-Town as locals call it, in San Jose, California. And there is not Japantowns in the US. Actually, there are only 3 surviving ones. One is in San Francisco, Japantown, one is here in San Jose, Japantown, and one is down in LA. I think it's called Little Tokyo. So let's take a walk and let's explore a little bit. The Arsenal Japantown, San Jose. What about some sushi? There were several pool halls, but no gambling houses in Japantown. Ramen Restaurant. Closed. Udon. So, typical Japanese fare, noodles, chicken teriyaki. Okida Hall. And now it is Ethiopian Orthodox Church. A Japantown tradition since '67. Okayama Japanese cuisine. And here are new buildings, a residential building with apartments, and it does look like they are retained or built it in Japanese style. Let's have a look. So this is the entrance to the new buildings in Japantown, and yeah, they do have kind of Japanese characteristics, and a lovely garden with bamboo at the entrance. Nikaku Japanese Arts and Minato Japanese Restaurant. Okay, let's take a walk there. No dine-in at this time. 10% maximum capacity, 8 people. Oh, that sucks. This is the entrance to Minato Japanese Restaurant in Japantown, San Jose. And here is an interesting tidbit of information. Anthony Bourdain, the famous chef and later on TV personality, ate here in I think 2015. Maybe you remember his show, Parts Unknown. It was not shot here, but he ate here in between or during his trip to the Northern California. So it means it must have been a good food, wouldn't you think so? And he actually committed suicide, I think, in 2016, a year ago. Before that, I mean, he was eating here, and if you ever saw his show, it was kind of a not typical travel show, not a food show. It was a show where he traveled around the world, and he ate with different people, talked about life there, and basically about everything, about food a lot also, but it was kind of an interesting show. And as I said, he committed suicide, I think in France in 2016. So this was the place. Minato, Japanese cuisine. And next to Minato is Japantown Pizza, open. And there is a lot of new construction going on in J-Town. Japantown Senior Apartments. Santos Barbecue, beef strip, teriyaki chicken, and so on. And this looks like the wave. Let's check it out. It was inspired by the most famous Japanese image in Japan called the wave, even though it was not the official name. It was a wood print by a famous Japanese artist about 200 years ago, whose name I unfortunately do not remember, but I do recognize kind of the wave. And there should also be Mount Fuji in the middle. It's missing here in action, but the original has it. But this clearly has been inspired by that famous. You see, Japantown started here in 1890s. First, single man came looking for just regular labor and farm work, and around the beginning of the century, around 1900s, women started coming, and the Japantown was basically established and grew, and it survived until this time, one of only 3 surviving Japantowns in the US, and it's still thriving today. And in 1941, during the Second World War, all people of Japanese descent were moved to concentration camps. I think the ones from San Jose were in Wyoming. I'm not so sure about that now. And it was really a racist thing. It was a fear that Japanese will betray our country in the war, Second World War, war against Japan. but it clearly was very racially motivated. If you realize that we were at war with Germany, Italy, I never heard about any concentration camps for Germans and for Italians in the US during Second World War. And when I say I never heard about them, what I really mean is there were none. So this clearly shows you, without any deep digging into history, what was going on. And it was President Roosevelt who signed the law about those Japanese concentration camps in the US. Fortunately, after the war, they all returned. They got their properties back, and the J-town here continued on thriving. But of course, going back to the beginning of 20th century, as the laborers' families grew and their children and grandchildren got education and better jobs, they moved out of J-town. Mr. Taketa built this hotel around 1915 to accommodate traveling businessmen and dignitaries to San Jose. And this was the hotel. Now it's a petite galleria, artful gifts and artisanal trades. And what would be Japan or Japantown without ramen noodles? Here is a ramen restaurant called Kumako, and they are open. Limit 2 customers at a time. Thank you. Oh wow. So it's basically go in, go out, pick up your takeout. And here is another Japanese restaurant, closed. And what is this? Manju Shop. It looks like they sell some snacks. Steamed cake flour, rice flour cake, wafer cookie. Tikei traditions. And a Japanese grocery and deli across the street. Guitar class, register today. This also looks like the original building. And this is the saint, Japanese Buddhist saint. So, if you like the video, subscribe, give it a thumb up or down, and see you next time.